Can everyone see our screen?
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
All right. Well, you want to start?
You start, go ahead.
All right. So,
I'm sorry, I cannot see your screen. I lied.
can you see the work session, planning commission work session?
No, sir. Actually, yes, I can now. I'm sorry. It's like my first day of Zoom. I mean, this is ridiculous. I've got it. I'm sorry.
Isn't it?
I have your faces pulled up in front of the slide, so I'm hiding that now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Springdale Planning Commission meeting, take 2.
It's the first day of school. First day of school. So yeah, we'll get things kicked off. I've got a couple things to touch base on before we get into the guts of things. Badges. I hope Debbie gets to check this out after the fact, because I stole her badge off of her desk the other day when she was stepped away, so I could throw this on here. We have a new planning commission location, so we have new obstacles. As we know, Peyton was naughty and he brought a book bag, and Roy was naughty and he had a pocket knife. So if we can get everybody to turn in a picture via email, or have time to go over to the new criminal justice building and get their picture taken, we can get everybody a badge and a lanyard, and then we'll be able to get everybody right on in whenever we're about to get the meeting started.
And you don't have to be screened. They trust
Yeah.
you once you get your badge that you can walk on in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, they'll get your badges and lanyards, and then you can just have them hanging around your neck when you walk in. And oh, here's Ben. We got Ben.
That means I gotta find one.
So if you have a picture, you can send it to me
Yeah.
and we'll coordinate.
Okay.
Efforts is gonna be.
Look at everybody sit.
Roy likes his picture on there, so you can just use that one.
Yeah. We got
That's
everybody-
exactly what you're going to get.
That's a Walmart picture right there.
Ageless picture. Everybody ought to have one, right? Dr.
That is my
Thompson?
Channel 5 news anchor picture, and I use it for everything.
Ben, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Cool. We had just talked about these badges that we're going to have everybody get in order to make sure that we can smoothly get all of our planning commissioners into our meeting, so we don't have any hiccups like last go round. If you can send Sharon a picture of yourself, or you have time to go over to the new criminal justice building and get your picture taken, we will be sure that you can get a badge and a lanyard, and then, yeah, again, we'll get you into the building quicker and easier, so that way you're not having to wait in line to go through check-in and all of that.
And we're assuming.
That's
we can-
great. I've got a glamour shot from 1995. I'll send you Sharon.
It's gotta be kind of what you look like today, or they'll kick you out with it. I'm kind of decide.
Roy, you still have to leave your pocket knife in the car.
No,
James.
he won't have to go through. He
I'm
won't have to
giving him
go
a
through.
hard time.
Okay, as soon as we get him connected, we're good.
Yeah.
As long as the Wi-Fi doesn't cut out over here, we're good. This morning, we
Yeah.
had no Wi-Fi, no phone, no nothing.
James, can you hear us?
No, it's still connected.
If I talk loud enough, I mean, it's gonna work, right? Kind of like when you're crossing a language barrier, the louder you speak, the better chances are.
We all have that same attitude, don't we? Well, let's move on. We'll catch him up when we get this.
Very
That
nice.
was perfect timing.
Okay,
I should have
good.
said it earlier.
I should have.
Worked out perfectly. James, can you hear us?
I'll try my best.
All right, James, so we were just covering.
Can you hear me?
that- Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you
Oh,
hear
sorry.
us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Sorry.
Cool. So we're just talking about what you see on your screen right now, which is name badges. So if you have a picture of yourself that you can send over to Sharon, we'll get you a badge made, or if you have time to come over to the new Criminal Justice Building, we can get your picture taken and get you a badge made, get you a lanyard and all of that. That way you're not having to deal with going through security whenever you arrive for planning commission meetings. So, moving on. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. One of the items that we have discussed recently as we're kind of eyeballing budgetary stuff for next year is the Certified Arkansas Planning Official, or CARPO program. It's based out of the U of A at Little Rock, hosted by the Arkansas Public Administration Consortium, or APAC. Before the world ended, it was 4 parts. It was Planning 101, Planning 201, Planning 301, and then a final kind of capstone project is what they call it. And that just is composed of reading a book, watching a planning commission meeting, and writing kind of an essay over what it is that you saw, what you've gathered over the course of your 3 previous lessons or courses. All of it's likely to be online moving forward. I've been talking to Marie Lindquist. She's the gal who runs APAC, and she says they don't have anything set in stone yet, but they're hoping to as soon as possible. So our thought process was $500 a head. If we could maybe try and get up to 2 planning commissioners every year, and then just maybe another couple next year or something like that. Just let us know who's interested, and maybe you'll have to rock, paper, scissors if there are more than 2 of you. We'll see. But if you're interested, let me know, and I can get you guys and gals more information about that. That's something that we're gonna have Sharon as well as Ron pursue next year, as I think that will be a cool opportunity for them, not only to learn, but also make connections with a lot of the folks around the state.
And the advantage is you don't have to drive to Little Rock for a couple of hours, because let me tell you, before it was a waste of time. But you can do it online, and it works a lot better now. So.
Who did we lose?
Austin.
Oh, gotcha. So,
Howard.
well, we lost. Oh, he's back.
He's back. Everybody who has 2 names, that throws me every time. Okay.
A lot of folks around here with multiple first names.
Yeah, and if we have enough interest and needed to do more than 2, we can see if the budget will handle more than 2 if anybody's interested. That kind of stuff. So we're just kind of a place to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. So tonight we're going to focus on mixed use, and not so much on open space, but we're happy to talk about a little bit of open space stuff if that's something that comes to mind as a point of interest or concern. We've got a few links in the event that we need to jump into those at some point.
Can you back up just a second?
Yes, ma'am.
The Highway 112 design is the latest version. If you want to see it, I've got a hard copy if you want to come back and look at it. I think they were taking comments through the 6th, but that doesn't mean the highway department will not still take comments. The things that we asked for would be the roundabout at Marchant and Cary Smith. So there's one put in there. The one that we asked to be located further to the north from Harbor, so the 2 weren't quite so close together. They listened to those things. They didn't take the curve out. There is still 2 options for Elm Springs. One is whether they go down the existing road, or one is where they redesign it to the east of the existing road. We're really not weighing in on that too much. Elm Springs thinks they want it to go down the center of the existing road. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but anyway. So if anybody wants to look at it, I can also send you a digital version if you want to look at what they've got. It is a access management control facility with a 12-foot side path on the west side all the way down through there. The other issue that we have is when you get up to the bridge at 612, it's not 12 foot across the bridge, which makes absolutely no sense why you would narrow it down. That's the other comment we made, and they tell us because the bridge wasn't design that way, well, we'll get past that one as well, but
So,
anyway.
yeah, this is the area she's
Yeah.
speaking of, where it narrows down over the bridge, or over 612 rather.
So they're dead set on doing roundabouts there.
Yeah,
They're doing a roundabout at each of the intersections off of that, and then you can see on that version that there's a roundabout over to at Carrie Smith, and I'm surprised we got roundabouts at those two locations. It's almost the position of, we're not putting any signals in, we're putting roundabouts everywhere, and that seems a little much. And, well, they don't have the cost of the signals maintained, and just buy the land, build it, and they're done with it, that thing. So anyway, but if anybody's got any comments you want us to pass on, let us know. Philip is a person you can talk to directly about this. This is one of his projects, but it's gonna affect how development occurs on the west side of town as we move forward with
They
this.
were doing a lot of surveying on 49 right there at the new interchange.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing is they're getting ready to start acquiring property from 49 all the way over to 265, or at least 49 to 71. We're hope they're going all the way to 265. So that's moving forward too. So just to kind of let you know where we are with that. That's an extra that really wasn't on the agenda, but something everybody needs to know. So, okay.
get this up.
Okay.
It'll open up, should open up over here.
We've looked at Tulsa's mixed use stuff so that we can kind of have it to as an example that's close enough to go look at. So
All right, so. I guess there's no good way of doing this. Okay, that's how we'll do it. So mixed land uses, I'll spare you reading this. I know you guys and gals all know how to read. But yeah, as you know, mixed use is residential and commercial blended. And I think based on a lot of what we're seeing in the form-based code area, it has laid some quality foundation for similar growth and development that we can do in other corners of the city. And so a lot of what we have in these goals and policies over the course of the next couple of slides reflect that, and how we think that based on what we've learned from form-based code as well as other areas of the city, how to best manage those moving forward. So I'll leave this here for a moment. If there are any of you that have questions or thoughts or input on that generally, otherwise I'll kind of let Patsy jump in for a moment.
I think we talked about this before on it, and there's certain areas, up and down Wagon Wheel, probably at Powell and Don Tyson, some of those areas.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I think we pretty well understand what it is. Let's move forward to the goals and policies that we've got there. Rick and I have limited to 3,
Yeah,
4.
I'll just jump to hers because hers are, she's got a longer list, but it is that she breaks things up a little better than I did.
I think one of the things that we have to make sure that we understand what mixed use is, it has to be commercial and residential. A planned unit development that we have now doesn't necessarily have to be both of those, but this is the only kind of mixed use that we're talking about, is a commercial that goes with it, and that it has higher densities with amenities. And how we move this forward, it's got to have some cohesion to it, and it gives us a chance to put some smaller tracks together. And after Ben's comments last time about the street network, I think we need to make sure we understand we're not creating another intersection problem by putting a mixed use in that corner. We just have to make sure that we understand how the access and the street work is going to. So I put that in as a goal statement. So we'll send all these to you. You don't have to memorize them tonight. But other issues that you can think of that we haven't really addressed, kind of in the general nature about what a mixed use land use should be a goal. I think we've probably captured everything that we talked about before. Let's go into the policy side of it. And some of the things that I identified is, again, what are going to be the key elements that we're trying to achieve? Does it have to be a multi-story building? Does it have to have a central public space? I think it has to be connected to the pedestrian-friendly pathways. And at the very bottom, I think it needs to be connected to the city's trail system, to the trails plan. Those are things that I think we need to make sure has to happen. I think that we need to make sure it has some, what the gathering spaces or the other, it can't just be leftover spaces that this is the open space with it. There's got to be some function that goes with that. I think we want to promote development with active uses such as restaurants and retail spaces, trees, walls, topography, and other sites arranged so that we're creating that gathering place and have a human scale to it. Now, the only thing I didn't put in there was offices, but offices usually works in with retail space and restaurant, unless it's all office space, and then we got to have a pretty good mixture of those. I think it's important that we make sure we do the crime prevention through environmental design, that we do that so we're not creating areas of concern for the police department or the public when they're there to make sure that they're safe. And that's pretty much all I had in mind policy-wise. I don't have a problem with having more policies and goals, because I think it gives us a little bit more discussion about what we're really looking for. So, kind of open it up, comments, questions?
Yes, ma'am, just a quick question. This is really just a question from my learning. Is the crime prevention through environmental design, is that something that in general we believe the public at large knows what that is or what that means?
Well, we've had it in the multifamily design standards since they were adopted many years ago. I know the police department has sent several people to train. I mean, it's a pretty well established term all over the country, but it allows us to look at that kind of stuff. And it may be something that we may need to spend a little bit more time talking about. But,
Okay.
you know, Danny always looks at all new proposals under that realm. And we're probably going to make sure that Ron has some of that training if he hasn't had it, so that we can always look at that to make sure we're creating nice, safe places for people to live and work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No, that's a really good question. I did speak with Ron today, and he's going to, as Patsy said, speak to Danny and get the details on what might be necessary to get him trained. And so that way we've got someone right here in our department that we can use as a resource to understand some of those rules and requirements a little bit better. And it may be something as simple as even doing kind of a social media post about it too, just as we have an ever increasing number of eyes checking out what we're posting.
Well, the only reason I asked the question was I believe every developer probably knows about it. I'm sure the people that design these know about it. I'm curious as to if we help the public understand the type of tools we use when we look at these new developments coming in, if it would ease their mind at all that we're looking through these type of lenses.
I think that's a good point, because from my standpoint, I think it would. That we're looking at not just the physical design and all that, but we have the element of the human there that's being taken care of. I mean, position of balconies, positioning where the trash dumpsters, all those kind of things. And I think you're right. I think that's something we need to make sure the public knows that we're looking at. So that's kind of why I put it in a policy. We just need to carry it a little bit further. Okay, anybody got any other questions or comments about this goals and policies type thing?
I just wonder how we differentiate between a true like mixed use development, like a live work, between somebody like, you know, again, somebody acquired a piece of property, it's a non-conforming use, they're kind of like running their business, running their house out of it. Is there a policy that is there something that we could state that would draw a clear distinction between those two type of things? I think you guys know the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We've seen that kind of, and just so we have a clear vision of what we're talking about, and somebody doesn't come in and go, well, yeah, I work on cars back here in my garage and I live here. This is mixed use. So.
Well, we kind of address that now, because there are only 10 items that can be a home occupation.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're living there and you're doing this, unless you're one of those 10 items, you can't do that. Your only other choice is to create a separation between what you're doing and where you're living. And that's a code requirement that they have to go in and build firewalls and create different exits and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how we use it now. I think when we get into developing how we implement this through either a use unit that's called mixed use, or we create a district for that, that's how we address some of those things. In the form-based code, you just can't show up and say, well, I live in this house and I'm gonna run my business, and that doesn't work that way either, even for the form-based code. So I think we're aware of that. A lot of it depends on how we do the implementation to make this work.
Maybe then what I'm thinking of is just you know, something about the fit with the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So for example, I think we kind of get to that we want this, you know, connected. We want it near amenities, things like that. So maybe that's good enough. But you know, again, these are usually more urban. We want them to fit into the neighborhood. It's not like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't imagine seeing these on the outskirts of town, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and we'll move forward to the map. We've kind of identified some areas
Okay.
where we think that would be suitable for mixed use, and it's not going to be the outlying areas. And that's kind of, I think, in the areas we identify on the land use plan, kind of helps bring that in too. So.
Okay.
Other questions or comments before we move on?
I was just reading through these, thinking of two components that if I was a developer looking at is that how does this go? I'm looking at it as far as minimum standards,
Yes.
because they're always going to go there and cost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are these things that will really help as far as the investment, or is there anything in there that is kind of a cost that we're going to see a lot of variances that come out of this?
Yeah, we had a little bit of that conversation, but we haven't identified anything yet. And, you know, for me, I got to work all the way through the goals and policies and get down to the implementation tool before I figure out whether it really works or not.
I think that much of what she has on here, though, is.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong.
No. I'm just saying much of what she has on here is, I mean, that like crime prevention through environmental design and pedestrian networks and just some of these other things. These are things that we've got in the design standards and things like that that have been proven useful in increasing the property values and the attractiveness of the city as a whole over the course of the last several years. So I think that it's at least a good starting off point.
Yeah, the third policy in there has three things that consistently have as far as variances: lighting, the paving requirements, and the perimeter landscaping and things like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know where, but we just need to make sure if we're going to say special lighting that we're prescriptive of
What
what
is
does that
special
mean?
one? Yeah, for a special one. Yeah. Like I said, it's easy to write the goal statement pretty broad, but when you get into how do you figure out to make it work, that's a different thing. And before I forget to say something, the council approved that ordinance and all variances will go to city council if they're denied. And it also has a provision in it that if an aggrieved party, even if they're not the applicant, can file an appeal with the city council. They decided by a vote of 4-3 that that's what they would do. The only other thing added to that is if you are denied a variance, you can't apply for the same variance for a year. So we got a little bit out of that. We just kind of have to see. It doesn't go into effect. There was no emergency clause. So it doesn't go into effect until the 10th or 11th of September. So everything that we receive next month will be ones that can be appealed to city council. And so
I think at some point we need to have where we all get together and talk about what are the common variances
Yeah.
And so that they're prepared as far as what's going to come to them, because, okay.
Well, the other side of that is, how deep do you get into it as a planning commission when you know it's going to council? And they have to make a final decision, so you can kind of temper your discussions and discussion about it to knowing that that's what's gonna happen, so.
I do agree with Kevin. I do agree with Kevin, and I'm only speaking for myself here. I think the council is going to have their docket extended a good bit through this, but that's what they want to do. I'll support it. I'm fine with it. But I do believe we need to have a common ground as to what we believe together. Otherwise, they're going to get loaded up with everything that we deny. The second thing I would want to know is I'd like to see how they're voting on it, because if they're simply going to vote to overturn everything we send, then we might as well just send them all to them immediately and not have to worry about it at all. I hope that's not the case.
So do I. I hope that's not the case. I think it's way too early to tell. The example I used at the meeting the other night is, this is what you're getting into, is that 12-foot fence. If either way you go with that, you could have had the other party there too. You really want to get in that discussion, and then the question becomes, well, what is standing? And they'll have to make that determination if an aggrieved party is not the applicant, whether they have standing or not. That's an advantage of it going to court. They don't have to make that decision, but nonetheless, they voted 4-3.
And this does require notification to all the adjacent property owners for both.
It is the same procedure that we use for everything else that gets appealed to council. So that kind of simplified that. And sorry, I just forgot to tell you that on the front end to make sure you know.
I'm not surprised, but
well, we had a council member who wasn't there, and had that council member been there, it might have been a tie vote, and the mayor indicated he wasn't going to break the tie, so that's neither here nor there. That's where we are. And
Patsy,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just had a quick question. Whenever you're finished, I was just going to ask.
Well, it's an issue that they can bring back anytime they want to. I mean, we all know that. That's a possibility. We'll just have to see how this thing goes.
And you're saying, Patsy, that was the 12-foot fence one?
That was the example I used of the kinds of issues that they could be getting into. When they asked me, well, what kind of variances are we talking about? That one was one that came to mind that was controversial and kind of puts you in a bad position when you got one party against the other. So that was one of the ones I used. So.
What's the application fee for the appeal?
There isn't one.
Well, then I would assume they can expect to see 100% of our denials.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the case.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I just was curious. Okay,
Well,
so there
won't
is.
just be denials if any aggrieved party can argue against it. So they're going to get both sides.
Yeah.
I think this turns us into an advisory rather than a regulatory commission.
Which was kind of the discussion. Is that really where you want to be? And, the argument is, well, everyone should have the right to go to an elected body. Okay. I started out really upset. I was going to fight this, and I thought, sometimes you got to get what you ask for.
let it play itself out. Like you said, they can come back and review it again. And in the meantime, for certain ones, I'll be there and I'll have my popcorn ready. So
We did have a couple of the newer council members who made the comment that if the ordinance is wrong or the requirements are wrong, and we're seeing lots of variances, maybe we need to fix that instead of taking this over. But that kind of fell on deaf ears too. So that's where we are.
Patsy and I
think
spoke.
Part of what we need to do is monitor that. And if they overturn 3 denials of paving, for example, we need to send them an ordinance that says we no longer want paving. It can all be gravel.
I agree.
Overturn it that many times, then the law must be wrong.
Mm-hmm. And that was a couple of the newer members, which I was really glad to hear that. They understood that, okay, then the policy may be wrong. And I think that's something we need to, as you said, monitor and go forward with it if that's what happens, so.
One thing that Patsy and I had spoken of shortly after this all played out, what was that, last Tuesday, was maybe at the beginning of that portion of the meeting, we just announced that and if there are aggrieved parties, that they have the right to appeal up to city council, whether it's before or after each one or something. Just figure
I don't
out
know that that's our responsibility. I mean, to communicate that.
The ones that are denied, they have to know what their appeal process is, because
Well, you covered
I've
that,
always done that every time, to go in and say an aggrieved party has the same.
right?
I'm probably not gonna do that. That's kind of, I don't know, we'll see. Ernest and I talked about that.
It's all
whether it was a good
posted
idea. Yeah, whether it was a good idea or not. If somebody's really that passionate about, they're gonna ask. They're gonna know, so, yeah. Anyway,
We're not talking a ton of denials that really take place. I mean,
No,
some
that's
ones
true.
that are pretty
Well,
controversial.
I mean, not just the denials, I'm talking literally every project, because regardless, there's going to be an aggrieved party, because someone's
Sure.
gonna get approved and they're gonna be,
Yeah, it's a good
someone's
point.
gonna get denied and someone else is gonna be aggrieved, and so.
And I'm sorry, but if the whole point of this is that everybody should have the right to take it to their elected leaders, then they should be told right at the beginning. I mean,
Well,
that's the whole
that's-
point of this, right? It's to be transparent and let them take it to their, their elected officials. So I don't see anything wrong with telling them on the front end and the back end, you have the right to appeal this to city council.
I'm kind of leaning toward, we just put it on the agenda in a written form on the agenda every time, and if you're there and you pick up an agenda and you know what's going on, you see it there rather than having to announce it every time. Ernest and I have talked about this a couple of times, and he hasn't decided which way he wants to go. He hasn't defended either way. And we had the discussion about it can't be an arbitrary capricious decision. We'll see how well that works too.
I'm just curious, why was it brought forward in the first place?
There was a new act that was approved by the legislature that now allows the city to take the option. The way it first came out was, it was just automatic.
Who introduced that?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it's,
Mary somebody down in central Arkansas,
Yeah,
I can't remember.
it wasn't who we thought it was around here, so, yeah. Anyway, just to leave that open as a statement. But, I don't know of any other city in the region that's exercised it yet. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
But city council thought right away that it was a good idea.
A council member thought it was a very good idea
One
from the
that
very
spoke.
beginning. Yes, the one that presented it to the commission is the one who brought it forward. Yeah, so.
So Patsy, just a question of clarity for me. If we approve it, it still can be taken to city council because someone may not have wanted it approved. If it's disapproved, it can still go to city council because somebody was mad it got disapproved. So why wouldn't they just all go to city council? Why would they even come through us?
That was going to be my next question.
That's kind of a really good question. I can't answer that for you, why we would hear them. I think we can pose that question to the city attorney and ask him the same thing. I mean, why are we spending our time doing that if it can go either direction?
There doesn't have to be a call for the vote.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's not a
I get
motion or a call for the vote, then. But I'm not gonna be that belligerent on there, but I mean,
I
we have to see how this goes.
I agree. I think we ought to test it a little while and see what happens.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be belligerent. I just had a question. I just that was where we were going to go with that. I wasn't trying to be mean or spirited.
No, I think that you're reading the minds of everyone else. You said nothing out of line.
I mean, I asked that question to a couple of council members right after the meeting. So why should the planning commission spend any time on this?
And what did they say?
I didn't get an answer.
Do we have the option, as the city councilman made the option to bring it to the city council, do we have the option as the planning commission to put it before the mayor to say, listen, I think it's something that's available to you and you want to act upon it? We'd just like them all to come to you because you're going to be the final answer anyway. One side or the other is going to come to you on all anyway. So why don't we just move these to your docket, take them off ours? Because whatever we vote on, up or down, they're going to come to you anyway. A large majority would.
I can tell you that right now, the ordinance sets the planning commission as the board of adjustments for zoning ordinance and all those others. It would take an amendment to that, and maybe that's what we need to propose. That is an amendment to that sets up the planning commission as the board of adjustments and see where we go with that. Ernest and I've been throwing that around. We don't have a position yet. And it goes back to, I think we ought to test it a little bit before we wade in that too deep. And see where, now,
Thank you.
when it comes to zonings and conditional uses, we don't have a choice because state law sets it up that direction. It's only variances, and all of the other, like the landscaping ordinance and all those others set up the planning commission as the board of adjustments for those. So that's where it would have to be changed.
I think, let's not lose sight of the fact that if we do hear variances, what we say is part of the record. And that goes into the court case that can end after the council makes its decision, it can then be appealed to court. So
That's true.
we can be the non-politically motivated voice of reason that treats every incident in the same way without any political aspirations. And so
No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point, Ben.
And believe it or not, the council, some of the council members care how we vote. They
Yeah.
want to know how we vote.
Yeah, that's true.
I would add to Ben's point. I think that's the idea of having appointed officials in general, so you can make policy without the pressure of political ramifications. Right.
It gives the city attorney some justification when he's got to defend it in court, because we always make a record of what the decision is. I would be surprised if council goes to that with trouble. So it kind of helps him as far as that's concerned too. It's just a little bit irritating on the front end. So we're just going to have to kind of play this one out and see what happens.
On this point, though, I would encourage folks. I don't want I don't think we want to turn every item into a big long discussion, but I would encourage other commissioners that if you're not falling in line, if you sense that maybe you have a different view than the way that vote is going, I would encourage folks to express that, because I listen to what everybody says when I'm thinking about something, and sometimes I like to just say things again for the record so that I can go back and remember, if I have to, why I voted a certain way. But I'm also looking to y'all for what you're thinking, and so I think that would serve a couple different purposes now.
No, I agree, Peyton. Perhaps maybe at some point we have a little bit more conversation about how we want that to go when we're in session. But I definitely agree. I think it helps.
Yeah.
Not that we want to be there all night, but
Yeah. I really wasn't trying to derail this whole discussion, but I wanted to make sure we got that in there, because that's the difference in what we've been doing. So let's go back to the goals and policies. Anybody got any real problems? We'll send this to you. You guys look at it. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Let's go to the map and show how we were, because we're saying this can only be done in an area that's already zoned commercial or shows on the land use plan to be a commercial area. And so those areas are where we kind of bubbled those out so that you could kind of tell some of the areas that we were looking at that you would think would be good for mixed use development. And we didn't put a lot along wagon wheel, because I really didn't think about it till you said that right now. Maybe we need to go back and add that area. The Southwest Overlay District, I think, is an area we're looking area for sure. The area around Walmart and that area, between Elm Springs Road and 412, a little bit on the east side of town where we've got some places to do it. Areas that are along the Greenway, because we're encouraging, pedestrian activity. The reason, I guess I can go back to the reason why I didn't really pick wagon wheel, because where are you going to get except in that internal development itself? So we might need to go back and look at that one a little bit more. Maybe closer to Dixie Lane and on that eastern end, and maybe on the very western end where we've got some of that big development going on there. I don't know. We'll have to go back and look at that one. That one didn't come to the surface when we were talking
You've
about.
got a whole swath of area as far as Silent Grove and
Yeah.
Wagon Wheel on the northwest corridor,
Yeah.
that whole piece there.
Yeah, we need to go back and look at that one a little bit more. But those are the ones just in our discussion internally as a place to start thinking about. Look at these areas when you, and really that's kind of an overlay district type thing of these areas we think are good for mixed development. We're not saying it always has to be mixed development, but if you want to look at mixed development, these are the areas that we think it should go into.
Because we just approved a commercial property as far as a food truck area. It's right there. Now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to look at this more. I mean, it makes sense as far as you guys drew those where there's commercial areas, but
Yeah.
I think there's opportunities where there's a lot of agricultural that, I mean, we're the ones that are proposing as far as what these
Yeah.
master land use plans need to be.
Yeah.
And so the Northwest Corridor is one, just like you had said, as far as the south side, that we need to look at that in a lot more detail, I think.
To be quite honest, we picked out the easy ones to start with.
Yeah.
You know, I know the truth.
Well, that's fine.
We got to start with something, and so we kind of pick the easy ones out that are to identify, and let's go from there on that too. So, because this is a major change to the land use plan. This is the first time we've made this major of a change to it, and so that's we need to give it a little bit more thought as far as that's
Well, where
concerned.
there's major road development that's getting ready to occur, those are gonna be areas that are gonna be really critical to look at.
Well, and just sitting here thinking about it off the top of my head, the area around Shaw School and all that area up in there might be an area that we need to put on the map because it's a different kind of development that might occur in that area.
Right here.
Yeah, so, you know, we need to look at some of that. We'll go back and look at some of those. Y'all be thinking about it. You may want to draw some areas that you think would be good for mixed development and bring it in so we can get those on the.
I guess my only pushback that I have in mind about that northwest area is whenever we were having kind of our preliminary presentations for all of this revisioning that we're doing now, when we had Springdale Water and we talked about the capabilities of capacity and things like that. And it seemed like Rick was nervous about some of these areas way out here as well as these out here. I don't remember off the top of my head what sort of time frame he had mentioned, if he mentioned one at all, in terms of when that could change. But that's the only thing that really kind of came to my mind this afternoon when I was looking at this and thinking.
But the
about
other
these
side of that
issues.
is they need to know, as they do their long range planning, that they need to look at this an area that needs to have services.
You just built a
Expanded
major pump station out in that area.
Yeah.
You're getting ready to have a lot of
Yeah.
highway construction that you're gonna reroute
Yeah.
lines.
So we've got, our crystal ball's got to go far enough to tell them this is an area you need to start looking at too. So,
What have they said about the Bethel Heights Incorporated area? I know that,
well, we're still kind of trying to figure out how that's going to work, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you just don't
Yeah.
have the sewer and.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that there are any areas, and this is just me shooting from the hip. I don't know that there are any areas right up there that stand out to me as kind of mixed use sort of
Mhm.
development area.
Unless you look at the area 171, it's going to be north of 412 to get up to Apple Blossom and Dixieland. There's some areas in there that have the capability of doing that if the utilities are there. And so, yeah, this is still needs a lot more thought, but it's a place to start anyway. Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I think,
basically,
isn't that kind of self-regulating? I mean, just because it's going to be good for mixed use someday, if the utilities aren't there, it's just not ready yet. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that it's not what we should be striving for.
I
and
agree.
then Another point, kind of going back a little bit, large employment centers are probably good places to put mixed use around. Then you have live, work, and play without needing the need of a car.
Yeah.
So JB Hunt, Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah, those areas up in there are, you're right. Kevin's been saying this for quite some time. We need to look at those areas, Dixieland going through. I guess I always think about Tyson's headquarters. They own so much of that down there that, it's a different situation. So we'll get some of those put on a piece of paper as well too. Okay, is this the last?
Yeah, that's basically just about all we've got for you. Other than, next go around, we'll be talking about residential districts. It sounds like next month, and I didn't even think to have this on here, we will have the presentation by ESI, and I can't remember, it was Roger Dickerson, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember what, the Norris Group, regarding materials that may be something that they want to show to see if it might require a change of ordinance.
And the multifamily design standards are what we're looking at as far as that's concerned.
And then, our planning commission and work session stuff for the next couple of months. Don't forget, criminal justice building is where we'll be. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
My concern about residential land use goals and policies is we kind of have a different philosophy from some of the council members. I think we all need big lots, and small lots are harder to get, and mixed use is something there. So that, to me, is one of the ones that we will have, I think, a lot of discussion about. What are our residential goals for the city of Springdale? So that's kind of why we left it till the end, because the rest of it's easier to get together than this part is. And so we need to kind of think about that. I would like to encourage them to, I encourage them to attend these meetings, but as you can tell, we don't seem to have a lot of, just especially, we would move it to the criminal justice building if we thought they would show up, but so far we haven't had much input. And once the meeting, we're gonna get settled down a little bit better, maybe we can do that, I don't know, so.
I guess one side note before everybody heads out, so we've got Sharon moved up to planner 2, and that's in large part because of how much of a great job that she's done for us over the course of the last year. So great job. And as of yesterday, we posted her previous job, planning tech, online. So if any of you guys and gals know of anyone who you think might be a great option, please reach out to them and then kind of let us know, so that way we can keep our eyes open for anybody that may be applying and have you a recommendation.
And what this sets us up for is another position next year. Because we didn't eliminate the assistant director position, we just weren't ready to put Sharon in that. When she gets in training, we'll move up, but that planner 2 position now exists. It works. We gotta.
Congratulations, Sharon.
Or condolences, it may be too early for me to know the difference yet, But,
What are the requirements for the planning tech?
Well, Sharon, what are the requirements for the planning tech?
It's mainly administrative role.
Yeah. It's really something we're looking for someone, we want someone with a high school diploma that knows how to use the Microsoft Office suites. If we had someone who is bilingual, that would really help. But it's really a paperwork position that we take care of everything. And there's lots of paperwork every day. So that's really
Someone that will work closely with Debbie and will be an integral part of basically helping make sure that we are ready for planning commission meetings. I guess one of the main things that Sharon does every month is carves out those agendas that you see, as well as the packets that you receive in the lead up to those meetings. And so someone that you think of that has those capabilities, that's someone that we would really be interested in speaking to.
And we're really trying to weed out those things that really aren't ready to get to you. It tends to make people a little upset, but they'll get over it. But by the time it gets to you, we know we've got a project that we can move forward. It's trying not to have to design at the table. That's what we're trying to do. So
It's a lot better than what it was when I first started.
Yeah.
A lot better.
we're getting there. We've made several people mad, but they're beginning to learn this is how the system works, and we're gonna cut you out if you don't have it ready. That's all there is to it.
So I had 3 random thoughts that I'd like everyone to just kind of ponder.
Okay.
The first one is planning commission meetings start at 5, the work session start at 5:30. Can we pick one time and just go with it? Because I always have to stop and think, which Tuesday is it and what time am I supposed to be there?
Well, we do it at 5 for planning commission meetings, so we don't have to go so late. I don't have a problem with starting work sessions at 5 if that works for everybody else.
I'm down for that.
That's fine with me.
Good by me.
Okay. That wasted half hour, okay, we'll just make them all 5 o'clock from now on.
Okay.
That was an easy one. Okay, what's your next thought? Is it that easy?
I think it is. I would like to require a material board for commercial design standards to be presented at the planning commission meeting. Because we get to talking about steel and we get to talking about these things, and I see a lot of probablys and kind ofs, and it's almost like, but there's nothing like seeing it and touching it to know what the quality of the building material you're looking at.
Now, we make them bring it here for us to look at, so we can do that. That's not a problem.
Oh,
We can
okay,
have
see,
that
that
one
was
too.
very easy.
We don't want them left here
Right.
because we don't need 25 boards sitting around, but bringing it to a meeting, I think is a good idea. It's not something that we can email to you, but we can put that in there. That's not a problem. Okay. You got another easy one?
I forgot what the third one was. It'll come to us
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay, that works.
Does anybody have anything else? Well, cool. We got done earlier than we expected.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and maybe next month we'll be starting at 5.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Oh, let's have to remember, we're